Rangers Journal Night.
Good evening and welcome to the Rangers Journal post-match reaction for today's game against Celtic. With me tonight I have Mitch and Cammy. How you doing, gents?
I'm good.
Quite a surprising one.
Aye.
I think certainly me and you, Dave, we're due this enjoyable post-match pod. We've done a few post Old Firm gubbins, so it's good to actually it's going to be wholly positive and a thoroughly enjoyable afternoon. And Rangers were great.
Aye, 100%, mate, 100%. And it's interesting you mention it, 'cause it is normally us that get kind of wheeled out when we've had a pasting off of someone. So it's quite nice to have something positive to talk about. We'll start off then. So just when the lineups came out, Mitch, what were your kind of thoughts when you first seen the team?
Wasn't massively surprised. The only thing I was probably a bit surprised at was seeing Ridvan in at right back, only because we've never seen him there before. But I think when you look at the other options that were floating about, Leon King hasn't really kicked a ball in anger in the first team this season. It's an awfully big game to put a young boy in there that's looking to rebuild his confidence. Whereas Ridvan, now he's an experienced player, he's got that quality about him that for the sake of a game or two, can we put him in there? Probably. And I think it was a big call to put Bajrami in at the 10 as well. I think that was a huge call and one that ultimately has been proven right.
Yeah.
Hope it looks like Dave's froze.
Aye. See, to be honest with you, I was a bit like when the teams came out. I don't think any of us predicted what that starting 11 was going to be, but I could understand why Ridvan was played at right back because, as you say, Mitch, Leon King hasn't played a lot of football. It's a big ask to ask somebody to come in after so long out the cold. At least Ridvan has played some sort of football recently, whether it's on the other side of the park or not. And I think the Bajrami, I think I've said before, I wouldn't play Bajrami and Hadji in the same 11. But I think today, that the cup final showed a sort of template for what can work tactically against them. And getting somebody in around McGregor who has controlled far too many of these games. And I thought tactically, I thought the manager got it spot on, and the players executed his game plan to a T for me.
Yeah, agreed. I think just on the King point, it would have been a bit of a kicker chucking him in for this one, personally, given how we all thought it was going to go, because you think about it, we pretty much destroyed his confidence with that Champions League run where he was forced to play, and then throwing him in this, I think, would have been the ultimate kick in the bollocks for him. Just talking about the ref for a second, and I know it's not everyone's favourite topic, but Paul has mentioned it. Can we talk about Robertson's performance? Thought they should have had 3 off. I'm not sure about 3, but he definitely seemed pretty damn lenient with some of the tackles, would you say, Mitch?
I think it was a very typical, and I don't want us to sound like, tin hats on there and shouting for the pitchforks or anything, but it was a very typical Old Firm refereeing performance, I think, where we always microanalyse the things that we don't get and don't look at the things that we probably got away with ourselves. So I would say the Bernardo incident, probably out of all of them, leaves me scratching the head the most, where you go, at the very least, that should have been called for the free kick, because he has went studs down the back of Hadji's foot, back of his leg rather, when he's went to take the shot. And I think if McGregor hadn't already had a yellow on the pitch for the incident with Raskin, if you ask me, it's a bit of handbags between two captains in an Old Firm game. Don't really think either of them should have really been booked for that. I think a stern talking to for the two of them would have been sufficient. But, it is a bit odd if you're going to give a yellow to one, you've probably ultimately got to give a yellow to the other. But Does it merit McGregor getting sent off? Probably not, because again, it is a bit of handbags between the two of them.
What about yourself, Cammy? Were you happy enough with his performance?
I think Mitch has nailed it, to be honest with you. I didn't think that, I don't think he had a great game. I don't think he had a terrible game, but I think he very much summed up the standard of Scottish officials, to be honest with you. I think that you become almost used to it, sort of thing. When I think I've watched Nico in his press conference, and he's obviously saying that the referee wanted to book the two of them, but then obviously realised that McGregor was on a yellow. But it's one of these things. The referee's not had a great game, but we Rangers have come out on top, and I'm not going to be picking holes over this should have happened or that should have happened. We had 11 starting Rangers players that never let us down, plus the subs that came on, and I think that's what deserves our attention tonight.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point. Is some of them did kind of stand out. I thought Ruskin had a really good game. I thought Dio had quite a good game in the middle as well, but really it was kind of more of a overall team performance rather than a couple of individuals dragging us over the line. So just talking about the first goal then, Cammy, talk us through that, kind of what you were feeling when you were watching it there.
As I say, I'm no long back for the game, so it's one of these things that I'm not really 100% sure what's went on, to be honest with you. Raskin, I think, picks. I'm sure it's Raskin that plays the sort of ball back to Hadji, if I'm correct.
Aye.
And Hadji likes a ping. I think that's one thing across the 3 or 4 years that Hadji's been with us. He loves to take a shot, and if you don't buy a ticket, sort of thing, and it goes into the corner, and I'm in the middle, still eating my steak pie, and it's,
how warm is the pie? But
the pie was up in the air after that, so it's great, and I think we've said before, guys, that scoring the first goal in these sort of matches is massive. And we done it in the cup final, and we obviously never got our rewards for a better performance in the cup final. But Rangers at home, 50,000. It's how you then kick on for that. But it was great. Scoring the first goal hasn't happened at Ibrox since, I think, the dead rubber under Michael Beale, which was close to 2 years ago. So it's been a long time coming, and hopefully that's the start of us having more of a competitive edge in these games.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, mate. And I think I was watching it on Sky, and it was pretty dire hearing them kind of talk about when the last time we had won a game against them was. And basically, if you exclude that dead rubber, it's years since we've actually beaten them. It's just no good enough. So I think this one was probably quite important for Clermont to get. Do you think it kind of changes the overall picture, Mitch, or do you think that, as our kind of captain alluded to, it maybe just kicks it down the road a bit?
I'll be honest, I've never been team Clement out. I've not been, and I know that probably goes against the overall grain of how we felt. We all knew probably going into this season it was going to be a bumpy ride here. It was going to be white knuckle. I don't think we've probably expected it to be quite as white knuckle as it's been, but we knew that there was going to be bumps in the road when you look at the players that left, the players that came in, and the bed-in period, and not to buy into the Clement, it doesn't take 4 months, for example, for a player to bed into a club. But some of these youngsters, like Yefte, who's come in, he's played a full season over in Cyprus before coming here. He's not got a lot of adult level football under his belt. But I think it's a kind of hard one. Where the problem is we can enjoy nights like this, but then it makes the previous 2 results more frustrating. Where you go, if we win, even if you say you win 1, draw 1 of the previous 2 games, that's still 3 points closer than what we are tonight. And that's ultimately the head scratcher, because today we've seen a full 90-minute performance, whereas in 2 games we've only seen 90 minutes worth of a performance.
Aye.
And I think that's the bit that it's up to Clement and his backroom staff to piece the jigsaw together of, start a game like you have today, get in, get an hour done, get the game dusted, and then bring out the younger players, the likes of the Archie Stevens sitting there, the Robbie Frasers who finally got a wee run out today and things like that. That's how you build these next batch of squad players that, as the manager alluded to in his press conference, we need to build that depth. Well, that's how you do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we've chatted about this many times in the group chat, but the youngsters just have to be getting those chances, and it's not always the right time. But like you say, just at the end there, perfect chance to bring someone in, taste an old firm, wouldn't have experienced it before. Maybe this is the chance to do that. Cammy, Yanis Hadji, gone from not going to play for us again to probably, certainly in that first half, one of the most vital players on the pitch.
I mean, his quality's never been in doubt. His mentality is very, very strong. I think everything that, as you say, who would have said 6 months ago that Yanis Hadji would be scoring the opening goal in a win, a 3-0 win at Ibrox against them? Certainly 3 months ago you probably wouldn't have predicted that. So I'm delighted for him. You could see how much it meant to him when he celebrated the goal, and he is a good player. I think he gets it. He's got the mentality. He's got the sort of attitude that you want across your team. He's been brought up in that since he was a boy, obviously with his dad, and I'm delighted for him. I think his attitude has always been first class. I think there's probably a lot has went on that hasn't came out. So full credit to him. He did. We all deserve it. But Yanis Hadji, for the injuries, and he's had a stop-start Rangers career and stuff. So yeah, Hadji was one of the star performers for me, and it's very hard I think to pick a man of the match, because I don't think there was a failure. There was 3 or 4 I thought were better than the rest, if that makes sense, and Hadji's certainly one of them.
I agree with that. And I think Hadji probably, in the fans' eyes, did himself a lot of favours over the summer, because we had Cantwell kind of throwing his teddies out, and as you touched on, he was really an example through that. Hadji kind of got his head down, trained with the kids, didn't grump, didn't mump, had the right attitude, and it is great to see him get his rewards now. Just looking at the other end of the pitch then, Mitch, Liam Kelly, second game, second clean sheet. I don't think he did himself any harm today.
What a man,
Aye.
And I will say, very difficult circumstances yet again for him to come into as well. Where the news broke about Butland's injury, and as always, we wish him the best in the recovery from that. But to find out, 24 hours before an Old Firm game, you're no longer the backup. Get your gloves on and you're going out there. It shows a lot about the mentality and how important it is to have a solid backup keeper. I think today, especially with the opening save where he put the foot right through it, he was very, very composed at the back in the bits that he did have to do. He'd done well. And I think he typified that old saying of, things work well when you do the basics well. We don't need a sweeper keeper. Just get in there, clear your lines, keep ball out net. That is your job.
Yeah.
And today we've seen that. I didn't, unlike in recent weeks, I will say my heart didn't skip any beats when I seen, Liam Kelly coming out for a ball, because I knew he was coming out, clearing his lines, clearing his man, and keeping it straightforward and simple. And I think he's maybe given the gaffer one or two questions to think about.
Yeah, and I'll come at you on that, Cammy. There's probably an argument with the kind of Butland's name in the game and the wages he'd be on, the fact he's the vice captain, etc. There might be a kind of pool of people out there expecting him just to walk back in once he's back. But do you think that's fair? Or do you think he has to earn that back?
I think, to be honest with you, I think I would focus on, like, it now means that we don't have to rush Jack Butland back from I think that's the. Forget about the football side of it. Jack Butland can get himself back to. He can almost take the paternity leave that he hasn't taken with, in a way, and get himself back to full health. I think that's the. And then hopefully across the course of the next 2 to 3 games, Liam Kelly continues with clean sheets, and then the manager has a decision to then make. But Liam Kelly, to his credit, I think handled. I thought we defended well as a team.
Mm-hmm.
Out of possession, I thought we were great. I think Celtic, a couple of shots in goal from what I can recall across the game. One, I think, excellent save from Kelly just before half time, if memory serves me, at the game. You'll need to excuse me if I'm talking absolute nonsense, but just from what I can recall at the game. But I think Liam Kelly's I'll give him full credit for his performance today. But I thought the back five, I thought all done their jobs really well. And who would have looked at that back five and said, come 5 o'clock, that we would have a clean sheet?
No me anyway, mate. No me.
I think the thing for the back five as well, it's worth giving Sterling and Proper a right good shout there. I think they utilised each other's experience really well. Sterling being the legs at the back and Proper being the positional defender who's in there to clear it, and maybe that bit of experience and calm at the back. Probably, arguably, Proper's best game for us, or one of his better games this season for us. And I think maybe now we're starting to see the best of him with an extended run in the team now.
Yeah, and I mean, Smoke said it earlier on, but genuinely, who'd have thought Proper would be calming your nerves today? You just wouldn't, would you? I think one of the things, I know he was quite criticised for the interview he did, Robin Proper, but one of the things that he was talking about was that it's different playing in Scotland because quite often they'll try and drop the ball behind you rather than it coming in front of you, if that makes sense. So I don't think, and I think it's almost similar with Davies, I don't think there's any kind of dubiety why they seem to perform better in old firms and European games where it is a bit more technical. Just kind of on the subject of strikers, Igman, I'm just curious what your thoughts were. I didn't think he was bad, but I didn't think he was all that involved for a lot of it either, if that makes sense. What did you make of him today, Cammy?
I thought he worked hard. I think that, I think there was a couple of occasions I can recall where he just wanted to get rid of the ball maybe a wee bit too quickly. But I think that's the rawness that we just have to try to deal with and try to polish off. I thought Czerny, every time Czerny got the ball, was very, very dangerous. I think he's probably our most creative player, and the player at the point at 1-0 in the game where he obviously puts the ball off the post, and you're thinking, oh, here we go again. This is going to be the sort of the cup final, the 4-on-1 in the cup final. But Igaman wasn't great, but I thought he'd done what was needed. I think that's the comment that Paul's put on. It wasn't a 9 out of 10 performance, but it wasn't a 5 out of 10 performance. I think he made his sell. He was always available. He never hid. He would have been my centre forward to start the game, so I was quite happy with it. But we just have to deal with the rawness at times with him, and I think that's twice he's played against them, and he's done okay. And his goals against Celtic will come, I'm sure, in the future.
Aye. And I mean, to be fair, I'm not criticising him. He maybe hasn't been as good as we've seen before, but at the same time, he still did a job. And I think for me, probably the key thing in that question, would you pick him to start the next Old Firm? Aye, absolutely for me. But we have got strength in depth, and Danilo pops up for that third goal. Probably quite fortunate the way it came to him, but it was a really well taken finish, actually, Mitch, don't you think?
Oh, tremendous finish. Keep in mind, he'd only been on the pitch, 70, 80 seconds by the time he's put it in the net, and I think as well, to get the best out of Egerman, you play him with Danilo. I think the two of them have developed this really nice chemistry between each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe it's that. I don't know if maybe Danilo maybe big brothers him a little bit in the park a wee bit about vocalising where he would like him to be and kind of playing to his strengths, knowing that. I mean, Danilo's one of these guys. He must be a defender's nightmare to play against because he's not the tallest, but he's quick, and he's just going to be that annoying wee pest that finds himself in that poacher's position. And as you said earlier, you've got to be in it to win it. You can't win the lottery if you don't buy a ticket. And he takes a punt at it, and if it works, fantastic. We've seen it up at County where he harried the goalkeeper, to get his goal. And today we've seen right place, right time. It's not an accident that he's in that position.
See this, if you don't buy a ticket, you kind of win chatter. Were you two speaking to Yilmaz before the game by any chance?
I should have been.
I don't think so. I think he heard you anyway, mate. He was on one today. It must have been about 5-6 shots he had.
Well, that's what I said to the boy next to me. I says, he's on over 4.5 shots at one stage, It's like, but fair play. And I think that's what I like. Go back to Egerman. I like his fearlessness and sometimes the impetuosity of youth, and they don't have any fear. And Ridvan, to be fair, is just a young guy. Hopefully Ridvan gains confidence from that. Ridvan's had a very stop-start Rangers career because of injuries and stuff like that. But sometimes getting thrown into a situation like he did today and playing in a position, I bet you Ridvan's never played right back in his life before. But to his credit, he's got his head down, and Maeda probably struggled to adapt playing against a fullback that was their body shape was different sort of situation, So can I just quickly say thanks very much for all the Celtic fans in the comments. Just make sure you like and subscribe. So thanks very much for joining us tonight, guys.
Right, pleasure as always. I'm trying to get rid of them as they pop in, but you know what they're like.
It's all right. We can thank them for the views, but
aye, that's it. Any views account.
But I will say as well on Egerman though, just to kind of touch on him, I think he done a lot of unnoticed work in terms of keeping Carter Vickers busy. Carter Vickers minus maybe 2-3 times was a bit of a non-entity from a defensive perspective because it seemed to be that Celtic focused on man marking Egerman out the game, which is fine if they're going to do that because then it leaves the hole for the likes of Hadji to come in, the likes of Danilo to come in. It leaves the hole in there for us to play into, and you can only play what's in front of you, and sometimes you need a striker. Just look, today your job is you will be marked out the game as long as you take their men with you.
Bit like what we used to say about Kent at times, and sometimes he would occupy a couple of defenders, but it just frees up that space elsewhere for you to get other players into. Just go for it, Cammy.
That's the thing for me that actually is amidst all the continued sort of doubts over the manager. That's the one positive that I take out of the last 2 or 3 weeks certainly the last 2 games against them. You've actually seen a plan. What we now need to do is I've said this till I'm blue in the face. The other 10 teams, we now have to go to Hibs on Sunday. We now have to go to Dundee next Thursday.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? Listen, it's great. We're all happy. We're all going to bounce out of bed tomorrow morning, buzzing. We're going to watch all the social media content and what have you. But it's finding the ways. Tactically, we were spot on in the last 2 games against Celtic, but it's shown the adaptability and the versatility of tactics and approach when you're dominating the game with 70% possession. I mean, I saw the stats from today, and we actually had more possession than I thought we would have had, to be fair. But I think that's the big positive out of the last 2 games. The last 2 games against St Mirren and Motherwell, hugely disappointing, and I think Mitch touched on it earlier. And I think that's the wee thing that gnaws at the back of me a little bit tonight. But we've showed the last 2 games how to get in about them, nullify their better players and what have you. We now, between now and the middle of March, when we next play them, we have to just forget about them and concentrate on beating
Focus
the
on
teams that we
ourselves.
need. Focus on ourselves and beat the teams. We're 11 points behind, right? We just have to beat the teams that we should be beating, sort of situation. That's the way but I think credit to Philip Clement for his tactical approach in the last 2 games against them.
I think what was
Yeah, I
quite
mean,
important.
Mitch can
sorry,
back
Dave.
me up here, but I said in the other group chat it'll be the most Rangers thing ever that we'll beat Celtic today and then we'll drop points to Hibs. And I think that's the key for me is today is great. How do you get that consistently against all these other teams?
And I think, in all honesty, it goes back to what I was saying earlier about we have got a kind of developing squad just now that, as much as sometimes as us for fans, it's been a very bipolar season is probably the best way to put it. Of the team are either champagne football or we're turgid and we're slow and we're one step away from the
It's like
Erskine Bridge.
there's no middle ground.
I'm just ignoring that one, Dave.
Aye.
But I think it is one of these ones of where watching us, it is, we are a very bipolar club this season, and it is probably due to the nature of how violent we were in the summer window there. Of we gutted out a lot of players that had, most of which had to go. We replaced them with younger, capable talent that are going to be this time next year. They're going to be worth more than what we bought them for. Some already are worth more than what we bought them for. And it is always going to be, as I said, it's going to be a white knuckle season. I don't think we expected it to be quite as white knuckle as it's been. But we play with, and I think the biggest thing for me, the last 2 games against Celtic, we've not shown Celtic the respect that we've done previously. Of we've turned up man for man and went toe to toe for them, even in the League Cup final. Taking the penalty incident to one side because that's its own separate entity. We went toe to toe with them for 90 minutes, toe to toe with them again during the extra time. When it goes to penalties, sometimes with penalties, and I hate to use it, it's stick your finger in the air and which way is the wind blowing. That is how the luck goes with pens.
Yeah.
Someone's going to miss one somewhere. You just don't want it to be you that misses it.
Aye.
And we've bloodied their nose, certainly.
Yeah, and do you know what? I think, the first Old Firm this season in the league, maybe not, but certainly the last 2 games now, we've shown we can counter them. We can genuinely face up to them, give them a good game, and win at times. It just, for me, keeps coming back to it means nothing winning the Old Firms if you didn't take care of the rest. And that's the bit that I think we need to iron out. We know on our day we can put in a hell of a performance. It's just getting that consistently now, isn't it?
And I think it probably goes back to what Clement's mentioned, and I know you and I have spoke off camera about the sports science aspect, and I think there's a middle ground between what sports science's job is, which is to say, look, player X has played an obscene amount of minutes. And I've always been a big advocate of a player shouldn't be playing above 48 to 50 games in a season for peak player performance, as well as injury recovery. But at the same token, sports science also doesn't dictate, obviously, sometimes you need a player when the chips are down and, we've got the injuries we've got. You need a player to turn around, hold their hands up to the gaffer and say, for the next hour of this game, I will run through a wall for you. Whatever, hell or high water, I'll give you 45 minutes to an hour. When I look at Tierney in particular, he's played more minutes this season than he played in the totality of all of last season. Him being able to sit out against Motherwell, we should be in a position that he sits out for a game or sits out for a half. But we've not got the quality underneath that at the moment there to kind of support a player having to sit out. And I think that is where you just need to sometimes say to a player, look, you can rest against Hibs at the weekend. Let's just get these next 2 games out the way, bag 6 points out them, run through the wall for me. You know, that's all I'm asking.
I get that. I think probably my biggest frustration with the whole sports science side of it was the fact that you took like 3 or 4 out at the same time. I think that done it for me more than anything else. If you're doing that, you do it in a balanced way. So you maybe drop 1 for the St Mirren game, 1 for the Motherwell game, rather than suddenly taking a load of them out. But I mean, that's for another day. I think for now, let's just enjoy the night, guys. Cammy, any final words for those watching?
No, listen, it's been an enjoyable day. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and no failures. You know, I thought the Rangers fans were in good voice throughout the 90 minutes, and everybody's going to enjoy their Thursday night. And Rangers should only play on Thursdays. I think that has now been confirmed that Thursdays are the day when Rangers should play the majority.
Can we start one of those petition things to get debated in Parliament?
Yeah, already
just after.
already on it on my way back for the game, but it's enjoyable. We can enjoy the next couple of days and recover. I think Yanis Hadji said that in his post match. Recover, get ready, go to Hibs on Sunday and win, and then go to Dundee on Thursday and win. And that's how it's just wee small steps that you have to try and don't do what we've done over the last couple of months and 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. I think that Mitch talks about the bipolar nature of the support and the performances, and he's quite right. But between now and the middle of March, when we next play them in the league, that has to be the priority. We have to deal with the jobbers, and that does sound disrespectful, because it is meant to be disrespectful, given the fact that our budget is far in excess of everybody else. Sorry, I just thought of that one there now. But we just have to deal with these teams, you know.
I've said exactly that in the other group chat, Cammy. There's no excuse with the budget difference, right? You can argue Celtic, the rest of them, there just isn't an excuse, is there?
But to be honest with you, it's mentality and effort and all that sort of stuff. If Rangers go out with the right attitude and the right approach and the right tempo, and I said to the boys at half time, we're winning all our battles all over the pitch. You're stopping McGregor running the game. You're stopping Carter Vickers. You're stopping Kuhn and Maeda if you allow them to show their quality. But what we now have to do is go to Easter Road, where we have got a decent result, a decent record over the years, and follow it up. And I think they can then build from there. And I think you said about the sports science, a couple of weeks' time we play Fraserburgh in the Scottish Cup.
That's when you rest them.
Yeah. That's when Robbie Fraser starts, and everybody you should be able to put out an
5 or 6 changes in there.
You should be able to do it. But it's really great. I'm looking forward to getting my dinner and just catching up on everything that I've missed. But it's been a thoroughly enjoyable day so far, Dave, Mitch, and this has been a pleasure for a change. I think I've done my share of negative post matches across this season, so it's good to have a happy one.
So we'll need to do this every Old Firm, mate.
And Mitch, you want to chuck in before we sign off?
Tremendous performance for everybody in the park and everybody that came onto the pitch as well. You know, and we seen a score for a corner. You know what I mean? When's the last time we done that?
That was just bizarre.
I was like, that really is a new year, new us. You know what I mean?
Aye.
But you know, tremendous from everybody on the park. You know, we'll call it the makeshift 11 if that's what we're calling them. But every one of them proved today that they would run through a wall for their manager and for the support. You know, and fantastic. You know, we can go to work tomorrow with the heads held high without the usual having to skulk around the kitchens after an Old Firm game.
Aye.
You know, but it's quite nice to go to the office and not get shouted at making a coffee.
Aye, absolutely, mate. Okay, well, thanks very much for listening, folks. If you did like what you heard, please do like the video and like and subscribe to the channel. Just a parting message before we go, as Paul's just chucked in the chat. worth remembering the 66 who didn't come home as well. But for tonight, enjoy the result. Thanks for listening.